Hello, my name is Wildstag, and thank you for tuning in to another used book rant. Today I'm going to be covering this book, The Man Who Walked Through Time. First off, as you can see, there is a sticker still on it with the price. I bought this for less than $2. I bought it at a place in Albuquerque, New Mexico called Treasure House Books and Gifts. It was a nice, very tiny bookstore in Old Town Albuquerque. Cute, had a small selection of books, not too many. I ended up buying another book there called Lone Dog's Winter Count. The Lone Dog's Winter Count is a book of poems associated with the author's interpretation of a Dakota Nation Native American man named Lone Dog, who recorded his calendar on buffalo hide, each pictograph signifying an outstanding event from 1800 through 1871. That one is not this video. I just wanted to say that's the kind of variety I found at that location. As you will see, I am also wearing glasses during this video. It's overcast outside and the sun is setting. The lighting in this room isn't so bad. That's all there is to that. Usually, I don't wear them to avoid glare. On to the subject of this video. The back cover reads, Colin Fletcher is the first man ever to have walked through the entire length of the Grand Canyon. In this remarkable book, he tells of that journey, 2 months of struggle against heat and cold, lack of water, dwindling supplies, nearly impassable terrain. But more than a mere adventure story, this is also a spiritual odyssey during which one man began to understand mankind's unique place in the vastness of nature. This copy was printed in 1972. The book was published in 1967. Now, this book I read over 1 week, only 4 days I think, while rafting down the Grand Canyon for work. When I pulled this book out, my river guides recognized the author's name. Colin Fletcher is legendary within the Grand Canyon and the people that spend time there. So not only did the guides that were guiding me down that river, not only did they know this book, though most of them had not read this book, they recognized key players and key moments, geography within the book. Now, what we did was we started Hualapai Canyon and then went downstream. What Colin Fletcher did was he went upstream from Hualapai Canyon and headed to the visitor center from there. So, though the geography overlapped for a short period of time, he was spending most of his time in a very different part of the Grand Canyon. Certain names were familiar though. John Wesley Powell, the first person to run the Grand Canyon. He features prominently in part of the narration of this book. We actually passed a landmark part of his journey while running that section of river. So there was that piece of history that really helped make the ride feel more special. Another part of the connection was that a lot of the people that had run that river, all of the guides I was with, recognized a major person within this book. This is the description Colin Fletcher gives of Harvey Bachart, who is a very key figure in the Grand Canyon guiding community. This is how he describes Harvey Bachart. Today, he is a compact, coiled spring, 55, and a happy and devoted schizophrenic. Teaching mathematics is only one of his worlds. At intervals, he lives in a quite different reality. His 3-year-old grandson, a young man of perception, recently heard someone use the words Grand Canyon. Where Grandpa lives? He asked, just to make sure. Harvey fed me a stream of accurate information, first by letter, then on the phone, and finally in person. So, Colin Fletcher relies on Harvey Bachart's mapping of the Grand Canyon in long distance backpacking terms, Harvey Butchart was section hiking the Grand Canyon to try and figure out if there was a possibility of hiking one end of the park to the other. Colin Fletcher was the first person to compile all of those trails that Harvey Butchart used into one long trail. And this book is Colin, who looks at Harvey as a mentor, lovingly using and appreciating those trails set before him to navigate in one extended hike. There's a moment early on in the southernmost portion of the hike where Colin Fletcher encounters some snow when he goes. He started late enough in winter that he hoped there wouldn't be snow to deal with, but that it wouldn't be so hot that it would be prohibitively hot in the canyon. He then hiked and finished, I think, mid-June, around the time where it starts getting too hot. In the first section of hiking, where he encountered snow, Colin noticed footprints in the snow, and he laments for a paragraph about how he might not even be the first person to thru-hike the Grand Canyon. As it turns out, what he learns from an information drop-in through friends is that Harvey actually scouted out that portion of the trail just a week before, just a couple days before Colin did, just to make sure that as the mentor, he could feel comfortable knowing that it was possible to hike that section. So Colin, coming up behind, later realizes that those footprints that he was stepping in so that he wouldn't sink too deep into the snow were actually the footprints set by his mentor just a few days earlier. That spirit carries him through the rest of the hike, that he is following in the footsteps of his mentor, but that he is doing something his mentor had never done himself. Surpassing one's predecessors is a big part of humanity, really, and that is the essence of this book. Colin Fletcher takes what so many people have done in so many different ways, he compiles it, and then he does it. And he talks about various mishaps, how he tried to flag down an airplane with supplies, and one of the things he troubleshoots is that originally Colin intended on using his sleeping bag as a flag for drops. His sleeping bag was a neon orange, which when you're practicing in the forest, it makes sense. Orange sticks out against green. However, orange does not stick out among the red rocks of the Grand Canyon. And so this sleeping bag ends up not being useful, but the fire Colin Fletcher set to signal this plane, that gets the attention. Colin Fletcher talks about a lot of the people that really pioneered the Grand Canyon and exploring it. The white people. He does specify these are the white Americans and Europeans that put in the effort. Obviously, a lot of this was done by Native Americans before them. But it still is an accomplishment. And as he stops at these various landmarks and discusses them in his narrative, he appreciates everyone that came before him. This book is short. It's only 230 or so pages long. He does include packing lists and a map, and the map does show certain milestones within the journey. So it's a really fascinating book. I loved it, and I think what really made it worth its while, for me at least, was that I was in the Grand Canyon when I was reading it. So a good book. I paid $2 for it, and honestly, very well spent $2. It amplified the experience of rafting down the Grand Canyon. My experience with this book isn't going to be your experience, but I would encourage you to look for this book nonetheless. It's a really great book, and I hope you'll pick it up. My name is Wildstag, and thank you for tuning in to another used book rant.